This week, we're talking about building a reader group. In our first video, we talked about why it's important to do so. In our second video, we talked about where you can find people for your reader team. And today, I want to talk about how to keep your community active, because it can be hard to keep people interested and engaged, especially if there's a long time between content. My name is Seth. I'm a full-time fantasy author. I've written 26 books. I've published most of them, and I make these videos because there are a lot of authors out there who feel lost, and I don't want you to be one of them. One of the biggest challenges with having a reader group is keeping them engaged. And this only becomes harder if the time between when you release content is longer. This is one of the reasons I default to trying to give content on an almost daily basis, because it really keeps my group plugged in to what we're doing. Now, I want to give a caveat here. If you have beta readers who sort of drift off and just aren't as interested in beta reading for you anymore, that's okay. That is not a reflection on your ability as an author. They probably just have other stuff going on in their life, and that's all right. After all, they're their own person and they're allowed to have other interests. You don't need to feel bad if they're not chomping at the bit to read your work. Let's talk about 3 specific things that you can do to keep your community active. The first is add new blood. As we just talked about, people's interests change. You're going to have attrition. You're going to have people who aren't as interested in continuing to be your beta readers. No problem. You want to be able to sort of let them go gracefully and also keep your numbers up. In order to do that, you just need to add new people to your group. I like to put out a call almost every time I start a new series or every time I have a new book. I put a call up on my Discord and say, hey, I'm looking for more beta readers. If you're interested in being a beta reader, come on in. You can do the same thing for ARC readers. The difference between a beta reader and an ARC reader is that beta readers are reading early versions of the manuscript and ARC readers are reading finished versions of the manuscript. So that's really the only difference. But as long as you're adding new people to whatever group you have, whether it's an ARC group or a beta reader group, you're going to be able to continue to get the valuable feedback that these groups provide. The second thing you can do is make specific asks. Don't just say, hey, read this thing and tell me how you like it. Instead, ask specific questions about it so that you can shore up areas where you're weak. This is going to give the readers something to latch onto. Often, readers have general impressions, but they're not trained well enough to know why it is they feel the way they do. So they can maybe tell you something like, there's something about these 2 characters that I didn't really like. Their interaction just seems forced. But they can't tell you that in a couple of the scenes, the way that the characters were positioned doesn't actually make sense, and that the dialogue is a bit stilted. However, if you ask them, hey, in this scene, how do you feel about the movement of the characters? Then they can say, it doesn't work for me, or no, it's great, but this is the thing that's bothering me. So if you make those specific asks, you're going to find yourself better able to leverage the team, but also you're going to get more engagement from them. And engagement is how you keep them excited about what you're doing. And then finally, and this is probably the most important point, so pay close attention, please take their feedback. I can't tell you how many authors I have encountered who ask for feedback and then just reject it out of hand. They don't actually consider it. Or even if they do consider it, they never take advice. Just imagine that you're a reader. Would you be interested in giving your opinion to somebody who literally just never listens? No, of course you're not going to be. So make sure that if you are asking somebody for feedback, that you are taking their feedback into consideration. That doesn't mean you have to do everything they say. It just means that you have to actually pay attention to it, actually give it due consideration, and make adjustments where appropriate. There's nothing like taking advice to help engage people in the project. When beta readers feel like their voice matters, they're much more likely to come back and beta read again. So if you want to engage your reader group, make sure that you are taking their advice. If you're an author, you should really consider building a reader group of your own. If you're a reader and you like my work, come join Discord. Because who knows, maybe you can join my reader group.